Norse Mythology for Kids. Tales of Gods, Creatures and Quests by Matthias Nordvig. Chapter 1. The Creation of the World. Nobody really knows how the world began. Some say that in the beginning there was only a deep, deep sea called Ginnungagap, and then Jord, the daughter of the sky and the mother of earth, fell from above and landed in the ocean. She swam around for some time until Loon came flying by. Jord and Loon talked for a while and decided to build Earth because it would be nice for Loon to have a place to stretch her legs when she was not swimming or flying. Loon dove down into the sea and reached the bottom of the ocean to pick up some mud and bring it back to the surface. Jord put the mud on her body and created Earth. Her flesh became the soil, her teeth the rocks, and her bones the mountains. The blood that flowed in her veins was the water that came from the rivers of the mountains, the lakes, and the marshes. Underneath the ocean floor and deep within Jord, a fire burned. To the north it was very cold, and ice built up. After some time passed, Jord gave birth to a Jotun named Hymir. Hymir knew about the fire burning deep within Jord because he came from inside her, and when he travelled the lands, he discovered the ice in the north. Hymir began to create many beings from this fire and ice. The beings he made are called Jotnar. Hymir created Surt and sent him to the caves in the ground, where he ruled over the flames in Muspelheim. Hymir also created Hrimnir and gave him power over the ice. He created so many Jotnar that they became impossible to count, and in the end the world was full of fire and ice. Hymir's son, Bolton, had a daughter named Bestla, who cared for the cow Audhumbla. This cow lived off stones. On the first day that Audhumbla licked a certain rock, a head came out. On the second day, Audhumbla licked the rock again, and the upper body became free. And on the third day, Audhumbla licked the rock, the legs were free too. The man who came from the stone was named Bur. He married Bestla, and they had 3 sons, Odin, Vili, and Ve. We call them the sons of Bur. Since the ground was frozen everywhere, except for those places where Surt's fire came out, no one except Hrimnir's kin and Surt's kin was happy in that world. The sons of Bur realized that something had to be done, so they decided to kill Hymir, who was the source of all this chaos. When they found Hymir, they stabbed him with their spears. His blood gushed out over the world and became the oceans, drowning many of the Jotnar. Then the sons of Bur took Hymir's skull and made the blue heaven from it, with his brains as the grey clouds. They took molten sparks from Surt's fire and placed them on the inside of Hymir's skull. These became the stars at night. Finally, the sons of Bur found 2 elves and gave them 2 of Surt's greatest sparks, so they could ride across the sky in their chariots and light up the sky. This is how the sons of Bur created night and day. The sons of Bur decided to call the first part of the day morning and the next part midday. They called the third part noon and the fourth part evening. The last part was called night. The sons of Bur set the course of the sun and moon and put the god Mundalfari in charge of counting time. That is how they created the years. Then the sons of Bur gathered on the eternal plains Idavol to build their houses and temples. They created workshops for iron and gold. They walked across the world and sowed plants and trees, spruce, pine, birch, beech, ash and oak. When the sun shone on the ground, the green plants grew tall and lush. The mightiest of these plants was Yggdrasil, which means the measuring tree. It stood evergreen at the centre of the world, with a trunk that shone white as crystal, and all the universe revolved around it. From its leaves fell the morning dew that landed in the lush valleys. At its top, a mighty eagle was perched, and when he flapped his wings, he sent winds across our world. Yggdrasil's roots reached deep into the soil, and below them lay the serpent Nidhogg. At the foot of the tree, in a place called Erd's Well, the goddesses of fate met. These goddesses were called Norns, and there were 3 of them, past, present, and future. The Norns decided the fate of humans and wrote their decisions in magical symbols called runes. The sons of Bur gave dwellings to the dwarfs and the elves in the ground. This underground land was called Nidavellir. Dwarfs and elves were given a shape that resembled humans, but the dwarfs couldn't come out of Nidavellir in the daytime because the sunlight turned them to stone. But the elves could. It is said that if you have second sight, a sort of psychic ability, you can see the dwarfs and be their friend. Dwarves and elves lived all around us in the rocks and the trees and the soil under our feet. I'm going to continue the second part of that story in our next video. Okay, thank you.